And we're going to transition to the next topic. And that is actually taking the lens to policy making itself. And today, we would normally welcome MEP Maria Walsh, who would be facilitating this part of the program. Unfortunately, and this is life of MEPs, she cannot join us right now. So last minute, I just got a message in here that I will be the lucky one facilitating this part. And it is luck indeed, because who can I announce? I can announce two hosts right now, two guests rather. And the first is Professor Dr. Petra Sutter, of course, the Deputy Prime Minister of Belgium. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to introduce and add a few words to your background for people that may not know you, which would surprise me. Petra, of course, you were a member of the European Parliament yourself up to fairly recently. You are also a medical doctor and a professor in genealogy at Ghent University. I know you pronounce that much better. So thank you. We're very honored to have you here live with us. And then our second guest is Chris Tomchidi. Chris is a mindfulness trainer and managing director of Avaris, a training and leadership development company, and a colleague of mine. He has taught mindfulness to a wide range of leaders, including members at the German Bundestag, as well as senior managers at the European Commission. Now, the topic they will explore is how mindfulness can help busy MEPs and politicians, and also what it might mean for politics in general if policymakers were to become a little bit more mindful, if one could say so. So, yeah, I will be here. And again, I am going to first start with you, Petra. Thank you so much for joining. And I guess my first question to you would simply be to ask you about your practice. I know you just started a new role, but can you share a little bit about your personal meditation, mindfulness practice, and how does that help you in your no doubt very busy day? And can you give some examples of that?
Yes, thank you, Jeroen. Thank you for inviting me here. It's exciting to be here because this is a subject that goes really to my heart. I've always been fascinated by the influence of the mind on the body, if you wish. As a medical doctor, always been interested in the mental aspects of my work, which is infertility, which is reproductive medicine, by the way, which I don't practice now anymore because I left the practice when I became a deputy prime minister. Well, I left practice completely. But so I discovered meditation, I guess some 15 years ago, through the practice of Buddhist meditation. And I was introduced to the different techniques and started meditating, I guess about 15 years ago. I was fascinated by it because the difference between understanding how something works and really experiencing it cannot better be found than in the practice of meditation. You can think about it, you can discuss it, you can theorize about it, you can analyze it scientifically and so on, and it all works. But still, there is a huge difference with really experiencing what it does to you when you indeed meditate. And I'll use the term meditation because this is the practice that I started so many years ago. It has helped me to understand how, and I hope that other people might agree with what I say here, because I'm absolutely not an expert in the theory. I just read a lot and then experienced it by myself, but it has helped me to separate my thoughts and my emotions from myself. And maybe this is a bit strange for people that are not aware with this concept. but it was for me what is called an aha-Erlebnis. That means, there is probably other expressions in English for that, that made me realize that I thought that my emotions and my thoughts uh, were constructed myself. I was the mixture of what I was thinking and what I was feeling, and this was explaining what I was doing. And by meditating, I learned that this is not necessarily the case, that you can perfectly let emotions go by, and also you're not obliged to run behind every thought that comes into your mind. Um, so this has helped me to um, look at things differently in life, the big things in life, but also the small things that used to stress you and to make you nervous and anxious and unhappy and depressed and whatever, by separating the effects of my emotions and my thoughts from what I needed to do to help me to be in the here and now. So what I usually do is I meditate. I practice a form of yeah, breath awareness meditation, if you wish. That is for me still the most simple thing to do, to clear your mind, to focus again and again on your breath, and then you really feel what it does to you. I mean, it's difficult to explain. If I do that in the morning, my day is really different from days that I'm not doing it, because I can't do it anymore every day. It asks time, and I know if you don't have time to do it, you should do it twice as much.
Yeah.
You know that boutade, and it's true, of course. But I'm limited by the amount of hours in the day, and as a minister now, the agenda is quite full. But I feel the difference if I can meditate starting my day or not. I feel different. I have also learned in a way, and it's also a bit maybe strange to or difficult to explain, but to get that meditative state throughout the day.
Hmm.
So I can easily, if you wish, clear my mind at any given time, when it's very busy and you get stressed because this meeting and that and that and that. I can, it's like I have a knob in my head that I can turn. And that helps me enormously, of course, just by saying, okay, let it pass, and I would say call that feeling or the state of meditating in between all the other things that I'm doing. I can, in a way, you could say, I can meditate wherever I am and whatever I'm doing, and this is extremely helpful, again, to not get caught into the stress and the emotions of the moment. So I also think, because I very often try to practice what is called metta, which is loving kindness meditation. That means you send positive emotions, if you wish, to certain people, or um, while you're meditating. So it's really different kind of meditation. I believe that it gives me more understanding, more empathy towards other people, towards animals, towards the planet. You probably know I'm a green politician, so this is why I touch upon that. Um, this is practice, of course. It's something you have to learn, to project positive emotions to other people, even to people that you don't like. It's very helpful if you have to negotiate in politics, because you don't always like people you are talking to. But by doing that, you can, in a way, develop empathy. You can try to understand why they are having another opinion. Are the deeper roots, the causes for their viewpoints, for their behavior, and so on. And that helps you to connect with them, and sometimes to find compromises, because I think politics is all about compromises and getting to solutions for problems where we have different opinions. So I think it makes me a better human being in a way, but definitely also a better politician, um, by not being carried away by all the emotions and all the stress and ego behavior, if you wish, that you can see in politics. By taking a little bit more distance and by seeing how relative these things are, you can better connect with people, and I think have better successes in your political work. I mean, this is but maybe that's already your next question. I'm sorry for that.
Well,
Okay,
thank
I'll
you
stop
so.
here.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It's very rich and also very helpful to see how you move from meditation, how it affects your day in reality, and how it unfolds also when you are dealing with stress or with difficult people around you, how you can still work with that in the moment. So it's not just meditation in the morning and that's it. No, it's something that you carries and that carries you through the day. That's really
Absolutely.
impressive. Yeah. So maybe just then to make the bridge to systemic level, um, Jamie just mentioned that mindfulness has been introduced to members of parliament in over 10 countries. What benefits do you see if more politicians were trained to be more mindful? And perhaps you know already some, so you can see a little bit the scaling effect of that.
Yes, I think it would be hugely beneficial. I've been involved in mindfulness projects in the hospital when I was still working full time as a medical doctor at the university, where we tried to introduce that for our infertility patients.
Ah,
And I saw the advantages, the beneficial effects of that. It really is a transformative experience, if people learn to do that and to be mindful, or to try to control their thoughts and their emotions, and live in the here and now. It really, it works physically, of course. It's really doing something with your brain. I mean, all the neurologists can tell you, and there's a lot of research looking into that. It really works. It's not just something that you imagine. It's not something esoteric. It really happens in your brain. It's really physical. It's really scientific. I just want to add that as
yeah,
well,
sure, of course.
because sometimes you need to tell that to people because they think it's something strange and something. And if I talk about Buddhism, of course, there is a religion connected to that, and that's not really what I'm talking about here. It's really the transformative thing that it does to oneself, without any other things connected necessarily. But I think if politicians would do that, it would absolutely help them in being, better in control of what is happening to them. um, and you can really see that what defines your state of mind is not what happens to you from the outside. It's how you react to it.
Yes.
It's a boutade, I know. It's a cliche, but you can only understand it if you really understand it, right? So people are happy or unhappy. Mostly, I must there are exceptions, of course. There can be terrible things happening to you in life, but mostly not specifically because what happens, but because how you react to that. And that's where you can make the change. That's how you can learn to become different in a way, to transform, and to be a more happy human being. And if politicians would do that, they would also develop, I think, more empathy towards other politicians, and they would, I think, be more inclined to problem solving and to better, trying to find solutions. Of course, mindfulness also brings you really to the focus of things, so you can be more focused. You can strip all the unnecessary things from what you're dealing with, and it would be less divisive. It would really connect people better, even if we think differently about certain subjects. Of course, I mean, we are still politicians. We still have our own views of everything, and that's fine. But I think it could lead to more understanding, to more solutions in politics. Well, I don't think it. I'm pretty convinced of that.
Thank you so much. This is very inspiring. I'll just take a breath now because And maybe then ask Chris, who has joined us here. Petra has made us really curious about how mindfulness works, how it's more than just meditating in a moment, but how it's something that carries you through the day. Chris, can you share a little bit about the process of learning mindfulness? I know you've worked with leaders around the world. You work with members of parliament in Germany. How does one learn to be mindful? Petra seems to have a very deep and long practice, but where does one start? How do you learn that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I've noticed, and I don't know, Petra, I'm curious whether you have the similar experience. I've found that politicians are some of the most stressed individuals I've ever met, okay? Because of the intensity of the work life that they have, the challenges that they face. So I think, a real starting point is actually this acknowledgement of, my goodness, there's a lot of stress in our lives. And, I want to do something about it, and it's not a magical thing. It's not going to go away by magic, but it's a practice. Okay, so just in the same way, if we discover we're physically unfit and go, I'm kind of getting old and, it's kind of adding up and so on, well, then we make a choice and say, actually, I'm going to practice training my body. Okay. So, what we practice is, the way Petra described it, we practice with, working with the breath, for example. And it's not so much necessarily about the breath being magical. It's just it gives us something to work with, to train our attention, to learn to relax. So we're cultivating skills of relaxation. We're cultivating skills of attention regulation, not getting caught by any little thing that, calls our attention. We're cultivating skills of emotional resilience. And, again, I think, Petra, as you said it, most problems in the world cannot be solved on the logical level alone because they're deeply felt issues. And while we have to be aware of the logical issues and the facts and so on, we will only resolve problems if we connect to people at a human level, okay? And respect their point of view. So these are things that we can train. They don't happen by magic. If we just say this, it's not going to happen by magic. We practice this. And I think if we look back upon our society, the last 300-400 years of our society, we see there's been tremendous development in physical hygiene. And especially now, I mean, it's an issue for all of us again, There's been tremendous development in nourishment. We understand how to nourish our bodies. And there's been tremendous development in training our bodies. And, 50 years ago, people would laugh at you if you said, I'm going to the gym. Like, what's your problem, And I think in a similar way, we have this simple realization that we need to actually understand mental hygiene, taking care of not filling our minds with stuff which is, not true, not healthy or so on, and nourishing our mind and training our mind. So, I think that in a similar way, and, once we make this connection, we realize, it's not a magic pill. We're not going to run off and go jogging for 10 minutes and come back and be a marathon runner, It's not going to work like that. But if we just do it, it'll actually become better. We'll cultivate that, okay?
Well, that's quite clear. Thank you so much. And making the link as well with Petra's statement. Now, that makes us curious, Chris, can we do a mindfulness practice now? We've been, as you said, we've been actually talking for almost an hour or so. What do you think? What can you propose? What can we do now, all of us?
Yeah, so exactly. So let's try something. I mean, I think, as you say, and, as Jamie said it, everyone said it, that, it's one thing to talk about this stuff, okay? But it's completely different to actually practice it, okay? It's like saying, let's talk about jogging. Do you know what I mean? That's interesting, but it's not going to change anything. Or let's talk about playing music. Yeah, it's nice, but it's not going to change anything, okay? And I think that this is just very important, just practicing. And so what I'm going to do is I have a little gong here, okay? So we're going to hear a gong and just try for 2 minutes to just remain present with your breath. Okay, so just notice your breath for these 2 minutes. And it's important to not like say, like I'm going to do this well or not well. It's not so relevant. It's like the key thing is what you notice. And I'll just address some of this afterwards, okay? So we'll just start with, there'll be a little gong. And for this time, just try to follow your breath, which is feel the sensation of the breath in your body, flowing in and flowing out. And just begin to notice what your mind does and what happens to your body as you do that, okay? Okay, so off we go. So just, as the gong fades, just try to settle into noticing the sensation of your breath. And just see if you can stay with that experience for the next minute and a half. And if you find your mind wandering, don't worry about that. That's natural. Just notice it and come back to this sensation of the breath. Okay, so and what's important, I think, to encourage is, just as if we tried to pick up a violin now. Some of us might have had a nice experience, and some of us might have gone, oh my goodness, this didn't sound good, or this didn't feel good. And I think that this is important to understand. We're beginning to notice our inner state. And some of us are able to perhaps relax in 2 minutes, and some of us find this, oh my goodness, I notice my own stress, I notice my discomfort, okay? But no matter what we notice, that this is the beginning. We cannot learn to regulate our inner life until we begin to examine what's going on, until we begin to notice it, okay? And this is essentially what the practice does. In some sense, it allows us to see our mind, how we are, what our inner state is, and begin to regulate and train it, okay? So, typically, and what I hear from people when they try this, some of them go, oh my goodness, I began to feel calmer. I began to, for the first time today, I noticed, my breathing or the tension in my body. And others, and this is equally valid, might have said, oh my goodness, I noticed I was restless, I was impatient, how long is this going to go on for? When is this going to come? Okay. So, that's all fine. That's natural. That's what's going on. And until we begin to notice that, and the act of noticing our mind has gone off, oh my goodness, it's gone off, bringing it back, gone off, bring it back. And I'm sorry to say this, it's a little bit like training a puppy. Okay. At first the puppy goes and sniffs everything. And you have to kind of, come back, come back. And that's how you train the mind. And we've been successfully training our mind to be distracted and fragmented and restless for most of our life so far. And so this is really training it to come back. Okay. So that's what happens. And it, in some sense, I just want to encourage everyone, it works. Okay. It's like doing sports. It's like playing music. Everyone can do it. You just have to be willing to practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Very helpful. I think we're coming to the end of this section. In a moment, we'll have the Q&A. I don't know if Petra, you wanted to share any final words before we move on.
Yes, thank you, Chris, because you described it so well. And I would just want to add something that you touched upon. You have to be very nice to yourself, not being ambitious that during these 2 minutes, your mind really should stick to that focus. If it wanders off, that's fine. Just observe it and love it, and give it its freedom. Be self-indulgent. And that's so nice. If in a session of half an hour, you can really stick for 5 minutes to the focus points. If you begin, or 2 minutes even, you have been very successful. Don't have a feeling that you have failed because you didn't do it in a perfect way. That's the very nice aspect of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Yeah, again, also for me, just sitting here, I just noticed my shoulders coming down. I notice all sorts of things. And, it's amazing that even 2 minutes, I think, can make a difference. So really insightful. Thank you so much, both Chris and Petra. I hope you can stay for a little bit for the Q&A. I'm curious. I see lots of questions coming up. Anna is also going to come in a moment to facilitate this part of the Q&A. And just remember that, of course, we'll have after the session an opportunity for everyone who is watching here live to share with each other what they experienced during these 2 minutes, how they look at mindfulness, and what has come up for them. So your turn is coming. But right now, over to Anna. Thank you again very much, Deputy Prime Minister Petra Sutter and Christian G.